TimberhArt Woodworks is Nova Scotia's gift to the timber frame world. Dan Reagan and his wife Kimberly have built the business literally from the ground up over the past 24 years.
10 years before we moved here, I'd been traveling, living in many places, New England, Asia, California, and Kimberly wanted to come home, so we moved up here. And the other part of it is that there was really no timber frame companies up here, so by moving into a new frontier, so to speak, I was able to set up and really develop the timber framing industry in Nova Scotia.
There's a tradition of Nova Scotia craftsmanship here, coming from the shipbuilding, from agricultural building, from church buildings. And so there's a lot of skills here available here in the province. And people in a rural area often know how to work with things and think about how things are built mechanically. So we find that there's a good workforce available in Nova Scotia for the work that we do.
Dan is originally from the United States, but Kimberly's love for woodworking began as a child here in Nova Scotia.
I'm a Nova Scotian, born and bred here. My grandfather was the chief hull inspector in the Navy. He's an engineer, so he had his drafting table. I had mine. Grew up doing woodworking, working on old cars, and was always intrigued by how things were built. And so when we came back here, my husband and I founded a timber frame company in 1987, and I've been doing timber framing in the province ever since.
Their works of art consist of mortise and tenon framework, held together with a wooden nail called a peg. Kim works with the client in the design process to ensure the finished product is not only fashionable, but functional as well.
The best moment is when you come into the home later on when it's finished and you do a walkthrough with people and you hear from them, you know, what they enjoy or what they might do differently, because it's a learning process. And I question people through that building process, are we designing this in a way that you're not blocking yourself in from something I've heard you say you might want to do in the future? So that type of forward thinking, because the oldest buildings in the world that are not stone are timber frame. So you have to build the houses in smart ways with that, because they're going to be around for a long time.
Projects can either be manufactured from new or restored by using heritage homes, barns, or churches that have outlived their intended purpose.
A certain amount of that can be reused as it is. Most buildings need to be reinforced in one way or another to bring them up to modern codes, and that's what we specialize in, mostly in complete restoration, meaning that we take them down, rework them, clean them, and put them back up. To me, I have a real interest in the way the craftspeople built in the past, how it was put together, how they did so much by hand.
And just because they use wood doesn't mean they destroy acres of woodland. This pile of elm, for example, was purchased from the town of Truro through its Dutch elm disease management program. TimberhArt Woodworks could be located anywhere in the world, but Nova Scotia has been, and always will be, home. In Port Williams, I'm Dale White for Eastlink Magazine.
Watch Eastlink Magazine. You'll be glad you did.
Proudly brought to you by Nova Scotia. Come to life.